a bunch of sailors together, and we had a few drinks before. So I went to the chief guy who was in charge of the manager who takes the ships apart, and I said, you know, down at the Naval Academy, Admiral Luce has a building, a navigation center named after him, Luce Hall. And I said, I really would love to see Luce's name there. Because I said, can you cut the name out for me? And he looked at me like I was from the planet Xenon. And he goes, you don't cut a name out of a Navy ship. It's part, it's welded, it's part of the ship. I said, yeah, you know, so you guys take ships apart, so you can put them back together, can't you? And he goes, let me see what I can do. So we made arrangements, have a welder, fireman, and I said, okay, we'll take the ship off. There's the name, there's the big stain that's there. And what they did is that they cut the stern name of Luce off the back end of the ship. All right? So now I have this 7.5, 8 foot by 3 foot piece of steel that looks like this.
How much it weigh?
Weighed about 300 pounds. Weighed about 300 pounds. Okay?
She was a heavy girl.
So Cam Vasile, the project manager, looked at me and he says, okay, you got your nameplate, and he said, you're going to donate this to the Naval Academy in this condition? And I'm looking at it and I said, I can't do that. That really looks terrible. I said, can you fix it up for me? Can you kind of make it, haze gray underway, make it, And he says, let me see what I can do. So that means give me $250. So that's what it looks like attached to the ship in the back. And then what they did is that they outlined it. They got a coffee cup and rounded the edges with the coffee cup so it's nice and it's all beveled. They sandblasted it for me. They trimmed it all up. They got the nice shiny glossy black paint. They put the primer on. There she was in 2004. And in 2004 it looked really ugly and nasty. There you go. That's $250 that I spent. That's over and above the $250 I had to pay the fireman and the welder to cut it out. But that's a different story. But that's okay. I mean, I got to where I am from being in the Navy, and it's kind of a give back. So now this is ready to go to the Naval Academy. All right. So we sent the letters, sent the pictures. Superintendent of the Naval Academy says, "That's great. Bring it on down." So I had to get it from Philadelphia back up to New Jersey for starters. And there's the guy, there's Cam, Sarah, there's the team that did it, put it all together, rented the truck, and I got this 7 foot piece of steel here, and I got this, I got this moving van. And I'm saying, thank God I wasn't on the Dwight D. Eisenhower. I had an 18 wheeler to bring this thing down. I was looking 4 letters, okay? So what they did is that these guys really got into it. They had a bubble wrap. They wanted to make sure it got a good ride back up to New Jersey. And so there we are on this cold day in February, just taping it all up, popping it in the truck, getting ready to go, and taking it back up to the Garden State. These guys were terrific. They were absolutely terrific, and they were so proud to be part of a project that was going to be on display at the Naval Academy. And it was just great. It was, and everybody turned into helping out. So this is it in my garage. And I said, well, I got to wait now until I get the okay from the superintendent. So my neighbor Dan was the chief of police at Fort Monmouth. I said, Dan, I need a truck. He goes, I'll get you a truck from Fort Monmouth. It's okay, I got the Army helping the Navy. Terrific. That's great. So these are my 2 sons. Andrew doesn't like to get up early in the morning, but we had to get down there early. And so we got this piece of steel. You can see the bend in it. You can see where it was the curvature, the curve marks were. And so we loaded it into the back of the Fort Monmouth truck. And we made the slip from Howell, New Jersey, all the way down to the Naval Academy, about a 3-hour drive. And we arrived at the Naval Academy. And there she is in the back of the truck. And we get there, and this is, oh gosh, I think it was Lieutenant Commander Gibney. The truck pulls up, he knew we were coming, and he looks in the truck and he sees the stern nameplate of a Navy ship, and he looks at me and goes, "I don't believe you did this." And I said, "Yeah, I don't believe I did it either. The alcohol was talking that day." So everybody turns to us. So I got the officers, I got the enlisted people, and everybody's there. They got the tray there, and we're loading this thing, and we're bringing it into the Naval Academy, and it was great. So we're bringing it right into Luce Hall. So now she's sitting on the floor of Luce Hall. And we said, "Okay, so what are we going to do with it?" So they said, "We got to get a display together." So they researched the ship's history, and they, okay, we're going to put a display together. We'll put it on the entranceway to Luce Hall. Okay, so they're sitting on the floor, and they're looking at it. They're still scratching their heads. "I don't believe you did that." And so this is the plaque outside of Luce Hall, and interior of Luce Hall, and they have all the different plaques of all the ships in there, and there's the Luce plaque is there. And so we had a ceremony in April, January, I should say, and we had about maybe 40, 50 people there. Was anybody here that was there? Rob was there.
Yeah.
Okay. And a couple of guys in the back, yeah. And it was just a really nice ceremony. So we had, which admiral was
Ralph
it?
Wood. Ralph Wood.
Okay. And we're just showing some pictures. So this was the ceremony. This is a story of the ship, and they have a picture, some of the pictures there. Stern nameplates up there. This is made of oak, white oak. What happens is that Navy ships, I'm really sorry, folks. Navy ships, the old ships were made of white oak. So because this was the third USS Luce, the display was put on 3 pieces of white oak. So there's a symbolism behind the display. Now, what I have to tell you is that, remember I told you that the curvature of the stern end of the ship? Okay. Well, when they put it up on the wall, it fell off the wall. So, because the curvature was front heavy. So they took the ship, and this may hurt some people, but they took the stern nameplate back out to the back of the building, threw a bunch of blankets over it, and they ran a truck over it a few times to flatten it. You're flattening my boat. Don't do that. So they had to flatten it out so it would stay on the wall. And they put an entire quarterdeck display together. The Navy flag, U.S. flag, and a couple of plaques and so on. And they had a nice little reception. We had a band. I mean, it was a really nice day what they did, because it was very significant for the folks at Luce Hall and the Naval Academy to have the largest tangible piece of the ship in existence. And so we had, it was January 20th of 2005 that we did this. And Lieutenant Commander Gibney was there, and so we had a letter from one of the Luce family members that we read. There were they put an announcement out, and some of the faculty, some of the staff came on board. We had some other some admirals there. I forget which admiral. One of these. Which one is it? Was it Bump? Did Admiral Bump was there? Stump? I don't know. I don't recall. And a lighter moment going on. And so Lieutenant Commander Gibney telling the story of the Luce and how it all got there, and I kind of gave a little Reader's Digest version of how we got it there, and I told him the story. So you can't just cut it out, you know. I'm not a hull technician. I'm a radar. What do I know about steel and all that? So I told him the whole story, and to think that this almost became scrap, and they found the ship's bell. I didn't know that. I didn't know they had it in the archives, but they were so impressed by the fact that we were going to have this there. They said, we got to get some more pieces of the ship, and they got the ship's bell. So there it is. So the ship's bell and the stern nameplate hang at the Naval Academy. And so what Metro Machine did is that we gave them a letter of authenticity, and we had it framed, and this is a DLG-7 patch, this is the DDG-38 patch, thanks to Ron DiOrio. And what I want to recommend to anybody that when you do go to the Naval Academy and you're there, this plaque is hanging on the wall over here. Take the plaque off the wall, okay, and turn it over, okay? Just a sec. So this is one of their, this is a little history, okay, and some more photo ops. and a few more folks that were there. Okay. Now, Luce Hall is the navigation center. So every Naval Academy grad goes through Luce Hall to learn how to navigate ships, and they have to walk past the stern nameplate display. So since 2005, the last 11 years, okay, how many graduates of Naval Academy have seen this? Sweet. And some of the guys, okay? And that's the late Bill Butler who was with us. What a swell guy. We lost him a couple of years later. Hey Rob, look at that. There we go. It's all good, right? It's all good. Got a motley crew, and even the captain said it was a good-looking motley crew. Right?
Ralph Wood is deceased now as well.
So this is a display. This is the letter of authenticity that's there. So just take it off the wall, flip it over, and sign your name. All right. So anybody that goes to Naval Academy, just turn it over and join the list of Luce sailors that have seen it, and sign your name to it. Okay, just put it back up on the wall. We're not going to come after you, okay? What's that? You have to put it back. Please don't take it. So if you do go to the Naval Academy, you go into the main gate. This area here is where the visitor center is. Come out of the visitor center, walk past the football field, go to the marina, hang a left, go about a block and a half, and Luce Hall is right there at the marina. Okay, Dahlgren Hall is here, Luce Hall is right here. This is where the football team practices. So, and this is Luce Hall. This is the entranceway. There's another entrance on the other side. Just go right up the stairs, and another view of Luce Hall. Right up the stairs, and there is a plaque will be up here on the wall, right there. So. This was my contribution back to the Naval Academy for what the Navy did for me to get me to where I am today. And everybody has a story to tell, and this is kind of like my story and my give back to the Navy, which I'm very proud of. And if you remember then, and remember now, and away we go. All right. So, thanks very much. If you want a copy of the whole program, that's my email address, and I'll leave that up for as long as you want to leave it up. And then I'll send you a copy and you can have it, enjoy it with your family. And thanks so very much for your time. Thank you everybody. Enjoy it. I hope you brought a tear, but I hope you brought a smile.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Excellent. That's very excellent. Thank you. Kind of later into the letter to the crew. It's just a quick synopsis of Luce's history. Actually, Bob gave a real good insight into what this is about. How many ships were there named Luce? 3. The first one was a Wicks-class destroyer. USS Luce was DD-99, as you saw on that one display there. And it was named in 1918, the year after Admiral Luce died. So he quickly had a ship named after him. It was built by Four River Shipbuilding in Quincy, Massachusetts, and launched the 29th of June 1918, sponsored by his daughter, Hotel Noyes, and was commissioned on 11 September 1918. So it didn't play a real big role in World War I, but it did play a little bit. And first commanding officer was Lieutenant Commander R.C. Park. Luce departed Boston and went as a member of Cruiser Destroyer Force Atlantic to New York. I guess they went there to see some Broadway plays. But then she sailed with Troop Convoy 67 to France on the 23rd of September and went through the Azores and then went on to Gibraltar that month. She went into the Med, went to the Adriatic, and this is all DD-99 in right around 1918, 1919, and it was in the Black Sea in May and June of 1919, and returned to Gibraltar in June, and then went back to the U.S. October, she was transferred and changed her designator. Imagine Luce changing her configuration. She was actually changed to reclassified a light mine layer DM4, and in April she went to Boston, Newport, Rhode Island, where she operated with the destroyer force as a mine layer. She was decommissioned on 30th of June 1922 but was then recommissioned in March 1930 and participated in submarine ops down off the Canal Zone as a mine layer. She was sold and scrapped in November 1936. The second Luce. Anybody know what type of destroyer it might have been? It was a DD 522. What class is that? Fletcher. That was close though. Yeah, Fletcher. The Fletcher class destroyer, and it was the second ship. It was laid down by Bethlehem Steel in Staten Island on August of 1942. Was sponsored by Mrs. Stephen B. Luce, the wife of Admiral Luce, his grandson, and commissioned in 21 June 1943. She departed New York and went to Bremerton, Washington, and after she went through Trinidad and had a couple nice port stops in San Diego, but then she departed on 1 November 1943 for Pearl Harbor as plane guard for the Enterprise, which was CV-6 back then. And conducted gunnery training until November. Then she went to ADAC in November 1943 to August 1944 and was doing ASW duties off Batu Island. It was in February of 44 that she sailed from Massacre Bay to participate in a 3-4 February bombardment of the Curly Islands. And they completely surprised the enemy, and Luce got lots of laudatory praise from the battle group for that, and destroyed a 2,000-ton enemy freighter, and was doing very well. She joined Task Force 99 and did that in October of 1943, and went to LST support. That gets to that gator word that Dan didn't know what it was. Gators being amphibious ships, yeah, but there. On 24 March 1945, after successes in San Pedro Bay and Luzon, she was escorting units of Task Force 51 and was hit at 7:40 in the morning on the 4th of May by a kamikaze. The planes were intercepted, but Luce took a heavy hit, direct hit, and at 8:14 took a list and went under with a violent explosion, carrying 126 of her 312 officers, including to the bottom. The current Luce, our Luce, which was what kind, what class? Farragut. Anybody know why we were 38 and why we were DLG 7, then renumbered 37 and beyond? DDGs. The Charles F. Adams class, the DDG-2s, had taken up that first 36 blocks of numbers as DDGs. And so we got 37 and above, and we went from light cruiser to a DDG. And that's why we reclassified to 75. But Commander Bagley was the first commander of USS Luce in 1961. And Luce participated in, and you guys could tell this story, so I'm not going to get into the real history of this. You guys have shared that all week, past couple days. But the big thing is we're here in Luce's final home port, which was Mayport. We spent a lot of time, as Dan pointed out, up in the Arctic Circle, in the Mediterranean, in the Arabian Gulf, and saw a lot of good ship mates come and go to our ship and to other ships in the basin. Some of us were able to stay in Florida, some of us went other locations. But that was a wonderful history that Bob gave of the final days of Luce, and I just wanted you guys to know of the three ships. And this is kind of a precursor into the next part of our program, which is, I'd like to ask Cliff Baker to come up. We have a letter to the crew from a former commanding officer.
This is dangerous. Now, I'm not a public speaker, but normally it's like, Your Honor, it was not my client's dope, okay? Yes, I sell a reasonable doubt for a reasonable price. I'm Cliff Baker, and I was the main propulsion assistant of USS Luce from sometime in 1979 until early 1980. I very brusquely met Admiral Whitney here. I'm glad to see that MPAs of the Luce can be successful, that we all aren't miserable failures. But I'm not. And surprisingly, now I don't think I was all that good of a Navy officer, and if any of the guys here that were in M&B divisions and you thought I was horrible, I apologize right now. All is forgiven. I left the Navy and became a Catholic priest, so you cannot hold it against me. There's a man sitting up here, when I met him in 1970, he was Pt3 Jim Thompson. And the only thing good I did, and I was in the Navy for 20 years, I retired as a commander, was convince this guy he needed to be an officer. And if there was anything good about me as an officer, I have to blame it on him and Chief Warrant Officer Walters, and then some of the hose head officers I served with were all over here. If it wasn't for Adrian Lawrence and Chip McClure, why, I would not have been able to prevent Bob Shepard from running into a trawler one night. You guys didn't know that? You were all asleep. I looked at Bob and I said, "Bob, you're about to hit that ship?" And he said, "What do I do?" And I said, "I don't know, call Ed Johnson." That's right. No, that's all not true. I'm a liar. I mean a lawyer. Okay? So I have a letter here from, I think undoubtedly one of the greatest naval officers I ever served with. He may be the best commanding officer I ever had. He was certainly the most adept at yelling and screaming. And I met him, he said, "Welcome aboard," and the next day we had a small nuclear explosion. And I said, "This guy doesn't like me." Lieutenant Huber over here said, "No, he doesn't like me either." And I'm talking about not Paul Miller. I'm talking about David Brooks Robinson, Vice Admiral David Brooks Robinson. How many here served under Captain Robinson? Was he not a hell of a good commanding officer?
Hell yeah!
And you know what? He was tough, but he was fair. And when I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago, I said, "Admiral," and he said, "Just call me Dave." And I said, "Admiral Dave." I told him, I said, "Admiral, I'm uncomfortable calling you Admiral, and I'm comfortable calling you Dave. I'm more comfortable with Captain." He said, "Well, that works too." He said, "Why did you think I was so good?" I said, "Well, thank God we never had to go in harm's way. But," I said, "if we ever did, I knew you would bring us home alive." And that's the kind of SEAL he was. So some of you who didn't know him, he was a Naval Academy graduate. He was the commanding officer PG-90 USS Cannon. 1970, he was taking Cannon up the Bodie River in Vietnam, and they came under fire from both sides of the river by 40-man force. The initial attack severely wounded Admiral Miller, broke his leg. I'm sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Now, do not go tell Admiral Miller that I was hoping that he had been wounded in 1994. So Admiral Robinson was severely wounded and was losing quite a bit of blood. He refused any medical care. He continued to fight his ship until the battle was over and he had defeated the enemy. He still continued to refuse medical care. He said, put me in the stretcher, prop me up, and proceeded to their base. The whole time he's bleeding, and he was the last man taken off his ship, and for that he was awarded the Navy Cross. So he's a hell of a scene. But some of the other things that he did, he was the XO of the Dale. Everybody remembers the Dale. Yeah, those scumbags. And of course, he was the captain of the Luce. And I know because, who was it that said we used to hold the mast up on there? Okay, Admiral Whitney will tell me, there were a set of footprints up there that said MPA stand here, because we went every time. He was also the CEO of the Richmond K. He was the CEO of the Richmond K. Turner, Chief of Staff of Surfland, Commander of Cruiser Destroyer Group 8, Chief of Staff of Sink-Pack Fleet, and he retired in '96 as Commander of Surface Forces Pacific. And he is currently retired. He has 14 grandchildren. His wonderful wife, Jean, passed away from breast cancer, I think, in 2008. He got remarried in 2010. And he lives in Dallas, Texas. And I was talking to him, invited him, and he said, I can't come. And I said, well, Admiral Dave, Captain, I said, you know what? Why don't you write a little greeting? Because I think the crew, the officers and the men would love to hear from you. And he said that he appreciated all of us except Lieutenant Johnson. No, not really. I love Eddie. If I treated him with even the slightest bit of respect, he would think I didn't love him. So I have here a letter, and I'm going to give it to whoever, and we can put this on our website. This is dated today, and it says, Shipmates, Rebecca and I are sorry we cannot be with you for this meaningful Luce reunion, but we send our best wishes and professional admiration to those who served in Luce and their families. I know we have Luce men from several generations of the ship, and each of you have contributed to the proud heritage of DLG-7 and DDG-38. Maybe the most understated thought in our Navy's history was John Paul Jones' statement, men mean more than guns in the rating of the ship. We have never doubted this. Luce's exemplary record, or history, and accomplishments were made possible by each of you, individually and collectively. And her heritage was forged over the entire 30 years of commissioned service. You'll like this one, Captain. Notwithstanding the tendency of the Philadelphia shipyard workers to refer to us as loosey-goosey, we continuously demonstrated that Luce is taut, and a taut ship is her legacy. On the back, in disappearing ink, it says, please tell Pt3 Thompson I'm still looking for the needle guns from the shipyard. But I digress. But tonight, we're not here to celebrate the accomplishments of the ship. Rather, we're here to celebrate the immutable bonds we have with each other. Today, we don't dwell on the mid-watches we had, but the liberty ports we enjoyed with each other. Not the state 5 seas, but the indescribable sunsets. Not the difficult inspections and maintenance periods, but the innumerable times shipmates helped shipmates. Not the long absences from families, but the wonderful homecomings. Not the seriousness of our business, but the joy and the laughter we had with each other. Ours is a special profession, and this is a special group. Bravo Zulu, and have a wonderful evening. Signed, David Brooks Robinson, Vice Admiral, United States Navy, and former commanding officer of the USS Luce. Thank you all.
Took a tour of the ship earlier today, and I was kind of talking to a bunch of people that were, all the young sailors that were on the ship, and everybody grabbed the tour guide and they were gone, and me and another E3 grabbed the last group, and they were all officers. And of course, they had to know every little detail about every little thing, so ours lasted twice as long as everybody else. But Mr. Baker had us cracking up at every station we went to. He was jumping into seats, he was playing with knobs. They're like, don't touch that, you can shoot a missile off. Because it was Star Wars on there, and he's like, and he was cracking jokes, he was telling war stories, and we're like, oh, we're never gonna get done today. I said, we got till 6 o'clock, and it's coming fast. But just a reminder, we got plenty of food back there. We got plates up there, chicken, all that good stuff. Over here, we've got Snickers, cheesecake. Get some before Dave has a third piece. The logbook is back there to sign for everybody's address. Don Brown's back there, got his hand raised if you want a thumb drive, if you got one to download the pictures. We're going to put the picture slideshow back up in a few minutes, but I'm going to bring Bob back up for another special presentation. Oh, I'm sorry.
Real quick, if anybody does not have a thumb drive and wants me to get one and send it to them, drop me your address. I'll do it that way too.
Okay. Yeah, come on up for a real quick note. Sorry. This is information that we didn't pass on earlier.
Okay, it's me again. Back in 2004, we were all excited, the ship's company had the reunion, and the word started that we should, maybe start a petition for a fourth USS Luce. And we started moving along very rapidly in getting that information, or trying to find out about the information. And it turns out that, it's the Secretary of the Navy that makes the final decision on who names the ships. And there's a hierarchy of, naming ships, like from carriers to like obviously key people in the, troops of the Navy. And then you get into the submarines and the cruisers. And Admiral Luce is in the destroyer, DLG, DDG range. And DDGs are named after naval war heroes and persons at that level who's made significant contributions to the United States Navy. So we had 3 USS Luces, and everybody said, let's do a 4th USS Luce. So we had a letter writing campaign to the Secretary of the Navy back in 2005, 2006, and I really wasn't going anywhere, okay? And we got some nice letters back, standard letters, and it just, politically, it just wasn't moving along. We had people writing letters to their Congress people, and it just wasn't moving along. So the whole project of a 4th US Luce just started to kind of die down. And then what happened last year, I don't know what put the bug in my head, but I said, let me try it again. And I was very fortunate last year to meet the Secretary of the Navy. And I had my envelope with me. I had 4 minutes with the Secretary of the Navy, just to kind of plead our case for the 4th USS Luce. And he said to me, well, I'm the guy who names the ships. You're talking to the right guy. And I said, this is great. I said, whatever consideration you can give. So I got a nice thank you letter. I sent a follow-up letter. And then we started talking about the reunion. And I said, well, this would be great if we can make an announcement tonight about a 4th USS Luce. Well, there is no announcement tonight about a 4th USS Luce. However, I did find out that I believe we are on the short list for a DDG, an Arleigh Burke-class DDG. However, I came into a fork in the road, emotionally, spiritually, ethically, and morally, when it comes to naming a U.S. Navy ship. And my email address is up there, and I'd like to get your opinion, because this is a great sampling of the 1960s Luce crew, 70s Luce crew, and 80s and 90s Luce crew. So it's a nice cross-section here, and so here's what happens. The Navy will name a DLG or DDG type class after some naval hero. Admiral Luce fits the bill. He's had 3 ships named after him. It turns out that they have opened up the requirements or qualifications to Medal of Honor winners. And that's the fork in the road that I'm at right now. Do we, as a crew, or former Luce crew member, support and go after a 4th USS Luce? Or do we just say, hey, we had 3, we were on the 3rd, we'll back it up and let a Medal of Honor winner have a ship named after him or her? So I'm leaving that with you. I've spoken to Paul. Paul and I, we talked about it last night. We prayed. You know, we said, you know, we have to, you know, there's a moral and ethical, and there's a fun side. Yeah, let's do the 4th Luce, yeah. And then you realize who they're named after. And when the Medal of Honor people were put onto that level of Naval War heroes, I had to back up and I said, do I really want to pursue this? Or to just say, okay, we had the 3, let's walk away and let's take it to the next level and support a Medal of Honor winner to be to have another DDG named after that person. So please take my email address, give me your opinion, and then I will get back to you and I'll let you know just what the crew feels. All right, so that's the, I don't want a spontaneous knee-jerk reaction. I want you to think about this in your ride home. You know, do we go for a 4th USS Luce and we'll do it, we'll try our best, or do we just back up and say, you know, let's give it to a Medal of Honor winner instead and call it?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, go right, thanks a lot.
So, is there been a decision made that we petition like that all the DDGs would be named after Medal of
No.
Honor, or are they just the hot?
No, they're just in the hopper. The Medal of Honor winners, those who awarded the Medal of Honor are now in the same category for a naming of a Navy ship.
So my point is that we may not be taking it away from the Medal of Honor winner if there's going to be non-Medal of Honor winners.
That's correct. We're not going to be taking it away from a Medal of Honor winner, but Admiral Luce is, you know, name is on the list for a 4th ship named after him. Based on the work that we've done in the past, and hopefully with my contact with SECNAV, but also with Medal of Honor winners, which means there's going to be a lot of congressional letters and things from the state of the Medal of Honor winner, and so on. So again, we're on the short list, so there's a chance it could happen, but the question here that I have to everybody is that, do we actively pursue it with our Congress people, writing letters on their behalf to say, you know, let's support a 4th USS Luce and let our Congress people write to SECNAV and do that?
How many more alerts are you receiving down? I know there's some on the way.
I think there were 7, I think they're going up to 120. I think they're up to 112 right now. 113, yeah. Yeah. So Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mavis, has been having some political problems with naming ships recently, okay? So this is kind of safe. But again, you know, it's a matter of just, you know, how much activity and energy do we put into a 4th USS Luce, knowing that there are families and other people that may be supporting, you know, a Medal of Honor winner to be considered for a ship name. But we're in the running. Rudy.
Question, do you know if it's any Medal of Honor winner or is it just Navy Medal of Honor winners?
I believe it's any Medal of Honor winner. Marine Corps, Army, yeah, anybody, yeah. So I'm going to leave that with you, and just think it over, give it some as much thought as you can. Let me know your thoughts, and when you do get back, you tell me what year you served on board Luce, so I can get a good sampling of how many people feel that we should go after it, and then, or how many people say we just back up. Okay, so that's where we stand. So I wish I had a letter tonight for a 4th USS Luce, but we hit a fork in the road. 113 is already named. Okay. Okay, so 114. So there's still a short list of names, and Luce is in the running. Okay, but it's just a matter of just how do we pursue it aggressively to have Secretary of the Navy and with our Congress connections and so on. Thanks a lot. That's the 4th USS Luce update.
Thank you, Bob, for all your help. Yeah, please email and discuss it some other day. All right, let me bring back up Mr. Whipcott for a special announcement presentation.
Yeah, I'm not going to reread a biography you all have. But Mark, I met Admiral Whitney when he reported to USS Luce back in my days as ops officer. And We had quite a great crew back. We had a great wardroom, great crew, and did a lot of good things. We all learned from each other. Each and every one of us learned from each other. I look at faces out there from combat, from engineering, from supply that I learned a lot from, and Mark was one of them. Had a straight vision and came out of Maine Maritime Academy. I didn't even know that existed. But Mark hit the deck plates, as they say, running, and it's obvious that he has achieved great things. And I just welcome him to the microphone to offer us a few words of wisdom. Forever Whitney.
Thanks, Bob. So it is absolutely an honor to be here, and actually still on active duty. The opportunity to come and talk to you guys was a little daunting because I wasn't sure if one person in particular was going to show up, and that was Feisty Van Case. Feisty, I choose my words carefully, because my entire career I have talked about why did I stay in, and quite frankly it's because I've thoroughly enjoyed every single tour. But I can tell you that if this guy right here, Jim Thompson, was anything like Van Case, I would not be standing here talking to you right now. And it's the tenets of leadership. And so now I'm actually going to have to start backing up my story, and I'm going to credit you with getting him to be an officer, to be the chief engineer when I was an ensign. So you are. You are. Go for it. All yours. So what I really wanted to do, though, was take the opportunity to tell you about your Navy today. So 392,000 sailors, about 260,000 government civilians, about 109,000 reservists, 272 ships, and we are going through an absolute unprecedented level of shipbuilding right now. So you got to see an Arleigh Burke destroyer, you saw an LPD-17 class ship tied up over here. You also saw a littoral combat ship. So those are starting to get out into kind of full rate production. But we've got 2 per year Virginia class. We've got the new aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, which will be getting underway for the first time coming up in May. So brand new aircraft carrier. New LHA, LHDs, I mean, so amphibious ships. I mean, so the Navy itself has about, this year will have about 17 ship deliveries. Right? That's impressive. That's extremely impressive. And if you saw on the ship today, the capability that we have on those ships, we truly still do have the best Navy in the entire world, hands down. But I'll tell you, the ships themselves don't run themselves, do they? So it takes the sailors. And every chance that I get out to see the ships, I've had a chance to go back to Great Lakes and see the boot camp, the schools. And I'll tell you, we the Navy did a disservice to our sailors starting about, I'd say about 15 years ago. We took the tools out of their hands. We put a mouse and computer-based training and made them pure operators. And that was a huge mistake. We took the opportunity for them to go ashore and continue to learn a craft such that when they went back to a ship, they were even better and better and better. So the way Senior Navy leadership talks about it is we've got a lost generation that are kind of at the chief and senior chief level right now that don't know what you know. And that's what it takes to get a job done. And that's both operating and maintaining your equipment. If you know how to maintain it, you truly know how to operate it. And so we the Navy, have figured that out, and so we're plussing up the number of sailors on the shore maintenance side so that they can learn and grow, changing the schools back to more tools in their hands, more opportunity for the sailors to get their hands dirty and learn how to operate the equipment. But there's a whole lot of equipment that they operate that's, literally you're changing a circuit card or changing the software on it. And so we have to evolve and we have to adapt. And I'll tell you, your Navy is doing that. So, great opportunity. My time on the Luce was just foundational. I mean, my time, really, again, working for this guy right here, was absolutely phenomenal and has carried me all the way to where I am right now. I've got one more tour, take me to 35 years, a second star on 1 June, and so sometime in June of 2019, you're all invited to my retirement party. So I'd be glad to take any questions if you want to ask now, or you can just come up and see me afterwards. But again, I just wanted to tell you about your Navy today and how impressive it is, and it's an honor, absolute honor to serve. So with the honor, Navy Corps attributes of honor, courage, and commitment, I want to do one last presentation though. So Dan, come on up here. So I've got the Navy Core Values Challenge coin that I wanted to give to Dan for everything that he did to put this together. So, Dan. So, any questions? Anything I can do for you? Or else it's snicker cake. Yeah.
You're addressed before you leave.
Yep, okay, absolutely. Nope, no problem at all.
Hey, don't invite loose sailors to a party.
Yep. Bring it on.
Are those real scrambled eggs?
What's that?
Are those real scrambled eggs?
No. Thanks. Yes, sir.
35 years right now, right?
32. I'll retire at 35. No, I did not. Thank you. Although, so the ship's commissioning was in May of 1961. I was not born yet. Sir.
I do have first-hand knowledge that it's been in business.
Yeah. I have, yes. Okay. Okay, all right, thanks, sir. Yeah, yes, sir.
Just one quick question. I served in the 70s, and I'm just wondering, I know a lot of things have changed. Is the readiness level better now with females on board warships than it was?
So, all kidding aside, absolutely, positively, yes. And not just the Navy, all branches, all elements. So if you've been watching the news, they now have an Army captain that's going to be trailblazing for women in combat arms. And so, and if you've watched the news and listened to Secretary of Defense and the other service secretaries, at no degradation or waffling on the standards that it takes to get these places. So no less weight, no degradation, period. So absolutely positively agree. Going once, going twice.
So which really was better, the Atlantic Fleet or Pacific?
So I have never served on a ship on the West Coast. So I was on the Luce, and then I got to be the chief engineer on the USS Theodore Roosevelt, CVN 71. Did a combat deployment on her after 9/11. And so I've only served on East Coast ships. I've served in a West Coast naval shipyard and I fixed them. So, but so an interesting sidebar. Just so you saw the Luce getting cut up. So when I was in command of the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, that's where all the Navy's nuclear ships come to be dismantled and cut up. And so watching that being done to the Luce, I used to watch that being done to submarines, and soon the USS Enterprise, CVN 65. But when she comes around, it's essentially going to be a big box, because everything else around the propulsion spaces is already going to be dismantled. But when the shipyard used to do that, and they used to do it at a high volume, the amount of steel that was leaving Puget Sound Naval Shipyard affected the steel price in the country. So it can be a pretty significant business. Okay, everybody have a great time. Thanks very much.
Okay, we're gonna put on the slideshow, play a little music, everybody can mix and mingle, and then we're gonna, like I said, sign that logbook back there, and we're gonna have a couple things in a little bit to auction off, and we'll get that together. Thank you.